we are. I really want it to be like allowing me to post. I need to post to a different page. Post to a page that I manage. I'm super curious to see if I end up with any like just random trolls. I really need to like create like hashtags or something. Anyway, guess we'll do the thing with the stuff and the people. And let's see here. Who do we want to disrupt today? That's a pretty funky looking one. I want to be involved in one of the harder puzzles, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to make an ass out of myself if I do. So I guess I guess we'll see. So yay. I don't know. Maybe someday I'll have enough people in the chat in order to do like a poll. In the meantime, since I'm just here by myself, I'm just going to pick something and start working on it and just talking about what's been on my mind until somebody potentially comes in and decides that they want to ask a question, I guess. So for people who like, I'm gonna do a more formal video about this later, but for those who are not familiar with this concept or like what the whole purpose of this is we so Okay. So how do I frame this properly without annoying the void? Um, Obviously, like we're talking about hello. Um, so I am just now kind of explaining for the future purposes of the video um, that we're trying to kick off kind of a series. The background of this is ultimately rooted in something that we used to do when I was in college, which was ages ago now. I am way older than I look, but ultimately, back when I was in college, I had a tradition that I started a couple of years before I graduated, and that tradition was um, that I used to set it up so I'd have music playing out of my dorm room, and I'd set up a jigsaw puzzle in the lobby of the floor that I lived on. And essentially, that jigsaw puzzle became kind of a community hub. The community hub ultimately was focused on trying to help people find some common ground, but then also kind of an open opportunity for people to come and ask me for advice, ask me for help with their homework, just, talk about relationship problems and get kind of an outsider perspective. I also tend to be a bit of a storyteller, so if you get me going on subjects, I can be a storyteller. So, there's been kind of different iterations over the years, uh, but the name Mama Lynn was ultimately dubbed back when I was in college. Um, Obviously, kind of tying back to this feeling of support and I don't know, like people kind of gravitated towards me like I was, protective because I was. I'm a pretty protective person. If I get to a point where you and I are friends and we go out and we do things together, I can be very protective. Just like I can be very protective of Timber here. Who, this is my kitty cat. So anyway, um, so I got it into my head after watching just hours and hours and hours of content that there are a lot of people who just could really use that kind of interaction, that simplistic interaction between people where they know they can come for advice, they can get kind of no judgment. She is literally about to pin my arms down. This is crazy for me. Thank you very much, kitty cat. So anyway, um, this is my kitty. Timber. Meow meow. Anyway, um, I just see a lot of people who could probably use the conversation and the simple interaction. So, um, literally just kick this off, literally just messing around with an idea and hoping that at least some good comes from it. I realize that there are probably a lot of people who will find this incredibly boring, but I'm not really concerned about people finding me boring. I would rather those people who find their way to the Mama Lynn vein and the puzzles that we do here, um, I want them to feel welcome and like hanging out here and interacting here was helpful. So, anyway, I will do, like I said, a longer video about it to try and make a more interesting presentation of what the history of like the Mama Lynn puzzling interaction is. But essentially, I've had a couple of different nicknames over the years because of it. Did start off as actually, I started off as the puzzle lady because that's what people started to know me as. Like, I was the chick that always sat in the lobby and did puzzles. And at the very least, people knew that they could come sit with me, do the puzzle, enjoy some time together, enjoy some good music, which, unfortunately, we can't really do the good music part here on YouTube. But I have been known to stream games on Twitch and play my favorite indie cuts on Twitch while I do that because I don't record what I do on Twitch because I'm really, really terrible at games. Um, and, ultimately, I just plan to be here so that, if you've got questions, concerns, want to talk about the world, want to hear a story, we can be here. But I'm the puzzle lady. I'm Mama Lynn. I am Lynn the storyteller. I have a couple of other monikers that you can find across the interwebs. Um, my gaming handle is Tesla Coil. Uh, so if you ever see Tesla and then coil with a Q instead of a C, that is me. And yeah, so we're just going to do this. So I do very much hope that people will come hang out with us and drop some topics in the chat, drop some questions, and if you would like to come and actually participate in the puzzle doing, I'm using a platform right now that allows for up to 10 people to do the same puzzle at the same time, as you can see on the screen. So I can set up a puzzle specifically for us. Since I'm basically talking to myself right now, with the exception of one person, so hello. I'm planning on trying to jump into one of these public boards and make a disruption. But yeah, if you have life advice that you need, drop it in the chat, and hopefully we will make something of it. So, yes. I really need to think about things like hashtags and stuff before I jump on. But this is far more about making sure that the sound was working. So maybe I'll just go like this for a second. Yep. All right. So I sound like I'm in an aquarium, and yeah, I definitely have some work to do, but I'm a low budget person just literally kicking this off this week and having technical problems on top of technical problems. But I am here to answer any question. And I hope that people will feel like interacting. I do wish it would show me the names of people. I'm trying to, I see participants, I see concurrent viewers, but I'm the only participant. There's some old dude in the farmer's market. Oh, somebody's coming back up. Yes. I'm trying to teach her how to walk on a leash. She gets really scared when I put her harness on. She'll let me put it on, but once I get her to the door, she gets all kind of weird. Yeah? That's good to know that she supports the stream. I hope people will support the stream as well over time. Let's see here. Who do I want to disrupt? I clicked on one. We'll see how it goes. I forget if there's any chat option here, but ultimately, yep, there's chat. I'm gonna zoom, and let's see here. It's just gonna be so weird because I'm used to doing like physical puzzles, but then also um, kind of being solitary in my puzzle doing. I like how I picked. Oh, nope, that sound is not me making actual connection. Got it. I think the only downside of this is going to really be that like the connection with the other people causes some skipping at times, I've noticed. So no. It's gonna end up just being a bunch of people watching me look like an idiot. Like, did that actually fit there? I'm like, I know mine fit there, but I couldn't tell the other person's. Oh my gosh. Do 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 do. I also have a partner that will be occasionally in the background. You might hear him saying some things that, maybe would be less than best, but we do not have a soundproof apartment, and therefore we're kind of stuck. Just like, wow. I am finding that as I'm doing this, it's kind of resetting. Like I'm trying to grab pieces and it's making me grab other things, and that will get infinitely frustrating for me. But it's probably something where I just gonna have to get used to the platform. Oh my goodness, like for real. I have a song stuck in my head too. And I'm one of those people who, when I get a song stuck in my head, I like to listen to the song over and over and over. And it's kind of driving me bonkers that I can't do that right now. Like, this definitely looks like it should go there, but it doesn't. Because it went where I put it the second time. Thanks. Let's see. So if I'm just gonna talk to myself for now, for the sake of, future video creation or cutting or whatever. Um, I've been going through like a thought process lately that has been kind of frustrating. Um, like, go figure, right? Like, everybody's sitting here in their points of frustration, trying to figure out, like, how do we continue life? Like, how do we allow ourselves to feel what we need to feel in order to continue our humanity? But then also, how do we make sure that we don't get overly engulfed by that general negativity that I think a lot of us end up compelled to attach ourselves to over time. Um, and, lately has been absolutely no exception. Like, I've been trying pretty hard to prevent myself from um, getting too stuck on things like the election and the pending apocalypse and all of that stuff. So um, it's been it's been weird though because recently I had a couple of life events happen. Um, we're kind of struggling to figure out what life in general is going to look like for us as like a family and try to figure out what the kind of cadence of responsibilities and where we might go, what we might do. um, and part of that has become is because probably because of the COVID stuff where it's like we are facing the same kind of fallout that a good chunk of the country is facing, where people are losing jobs or their employers are um, buckling down on things like hiring, like kind of doubling down on the buckle down. Because, like, right now is pretty traditionally, like, restricted frame for people when it comes to things like hiring, because it's the end of the year and most companies at this point are trying to be really fiscally responsible, um, because they're out of a budget. Like there's no more money, so they have to be careful about who they hire and who they fire and what investments they sign up for, or who, like basically what commitments they are making. And so there's that, but then it's doubly compounded by the fact that we are also facing the pandemic. And I think one of the things that has been really difficult for people in the whole pandemic realm is how, I mean, it basically makes it so that you cannot deny your humanity. Like, one of our survival tactics that we build over the course of our lives is this ability to kind of compartmentalize, where we can keep all of our bullshit over here, and we can keep life and, things like work and bills and everything over here. And, so when we're trying to address money issues, we're not overly distracted by existential crisis and vice versa. So now that we're in the middle of this whole pandemic deal, obviously not the first pandemic that we've seen. It's not even the first pandemic that we've seen in my personal lifetime, but it is definitely a challenge for, I mean, I'm here in the United States. This has definitely been a difficult time to get any sense of normalcy here in the United States. I can't, it's like I wish that I had more insight into what was going on in other countries, but I think it's kind of difficult to do that while also keeping tabs on the things that you need to know for your own personal existence in this realm. So we're all trying to stay afloat. And I think right now we're seeing kind of a breakdown of that compartmentalization. We're seeing people being confronted by existential questions while they're at work and having a really hard time keeping that personal impact separate. And if I'm going to be 100% honest about the situation, that also happened to me. So, I was gainfully employed at the beginning of this year and everything seemed to be going pretty well. And then when the whole pandemic thing came through, I know we weren't too concerned about it because, all things considered, I was in a really good spot. And, I had my job and it was a good job. It was one that, challenged my brain and I felt fairly useful. But what I found was that while there was a certain kind of encouragement for you to be human and to embrace your individuality or your person, what the okay, well, if that's how it's gonna roll. I'm not going to mess with a puzzle where people are intentionally sabotaging the puzzle. I find it frustrating. Anyway, so I had my job. We had our life kind of fleshing out, though there were certainly things I was still stressed about. And, was making it work. And the problem with like the advent of things like the pandemic was that it really truly started to make it virtually impossible to keep things separate. I don't know about other workplaces, but where I happen to be, it was just a regular occurrence for people to log into work and to be doing their jobs, and then they would start talking about, you know, the general sense of uh, the existential crisis. And I don't really understand. In case it's not obvious, I just told the chat of this puzzle that they're live on YouTube right now. I do find this kind of an interesting situation, though, where, you know, what the crap? Kitty, come here. Come here. Come here, cutie. There you are. You're so cute. You're so cute. Yeah? You want to keep talking? I should just leave you on the screen. I bet you people would show up and watch you. Yeah? It's actually kind of funny. This, like, all of this pandemic stuff is kind of propelled us to get an animal. So that's how I ended up with Timber here. She's my emotional support. Am I familiar? We took her on from a household that had 3 chihuahuas and 1 big old cat. And she was this skinny little thing, and they told us she was a Bengal, and just like this tiny, tiny kitty. And she moved in with us. She's a spoiled, rotten grandma cat. And now she's getting a little chunky, and she's happy. And it's pretty funny, though. I just don't feel like dealing with that idiocy or whatever, so I forget what I signed in as. We'll just do it with this. Gonna officially be on here signed in, and let's see here. Find something. Oh, somebody's pressing buttons. Guess it's pressing buttons. Tamper's pressing buttons. Meow, meow. Yeah? She's my kitty cat. Anyway, getting back to like what I was talking about to the middle of the void that's not listening to me. I certainly got into this place this year where we were it seemed like we were in a good place, but every day I would go to work, there would be kind of this influence of kind of poor, I don't know, there was just poor separation, poor compartmentalization between, that personal part of your life where you're dealing with your existential crisis and like the conference calls and, trying to deal with clients and all of that stuff. And so after a little while, it just kind of became weird. And then I would have these conversations with my boss, and we would talk about the importance of being real and being an individual and being honest and asking for feedback and responding to feedback, and I was trying, um, and I failed. And this job that was supposed to be kind of my ability to keep my life going through the pandemic, because I was able to work from home, I was able to support our family, was able to pay 100% of the bills for two adults, and really not have to worry about it. Um, they let me go the day before my birthday, which was in the middle of October. Um, it's almost, it was like 3 weeks ago now. And the weirdest part about that has been like facing the true decision that I think most people end up having to make in their life. And that decision scares a lot of people. The decision is ultimately deciding whether or not you want to run the in the structure of standard society, where you're trying to hook up with the right formulation of the corporate ladder, the right ladder that you personally could climb, where your skills and your person and your who you are could ultimately uh, combine with that ladder in such a way that would make you successful. Um, propel promotions and make you feel fulfilled from a professional standpoint. I think that we are all really compelled to continue that path, even though we have even those of us that don't necessarily like have that kind of compulsion. Like, one of the things that I say fairly frequently is I'm just not interested in being a CEO. And it's not that I don't want to own a business. I have owned business before. I still technically own a business. I like working for myself. I like working for myself because I can decide when I work and when I don't. I can work on what I feel like working on, and I can set my own rules. I, at the same time, can get direct information from the people that I work with to say that they like what they're getting from me or not. I don't have to double check with anybody as to whether or not who I'm bringing to the table is going to be acceptable as part of like the branded framework. But from the perspective of modern society, I think that there's a lot of us who are constantly educated in this way that says in order to be successful in any way, shape, or form, you have to find a place in the corporate ladder to conform. That conforming just doesn't happen for some of us. And I got to talking to one of my friends the other day about it, and I had like a light bulb moment. And in that light bulb moment, I thought about the fact that we have a very high density of people experiencing things like anxiety and depression and a lack of self-worth and a continuous seeking of validation from external sources and stuff like that. All of that is part of that acceptance structure where we're driving towards a corporate level that we don't have. Like we don't have this compulsion to be part of the corporate level from like a natural perspective, but like we're told by the people who raise us, the people who structure the world around us, that we should want to be part of that corporate structure. So when we don't match those expectations, that's actually where the anxiety tends to brew from. That's where a lot of depression brews from. People, upon realizing that they don't fit, they don't fit that structure, they struggle with it. It becomes a testament or a lack thereof about, the quality of their person or how much they're worth to the world. And we can sit here and say over and over and over that you shouldn't care what people think and you shouldn't care about how other people value you. You should only care about the value you place upon yourself. But the reality of it is that would only be truly effective if we lived exclusively in a world where we were alone. As long as we're working and living with other people, we do have to be concerned about what they think or how we relate to those people. And when we start making that analysis about how do we relate to other people, how do we fit within structures for professionalism and creativity and just fucking existing. If we continue to focus outwardly for the definition of those expectations, the definition of who we are supposed to be and what is acceptable for an individual to be, if we're continually letting somebody else make that definition for us, we are setting ourselves up for that sense of doom, that sense of existential crisis, that sense of, I don't fit. I feel anxious because of this. I feel like I will never succeed because of this. And the reality of it is, we as individuals have the ability to define what success is. And right before I lost my job last month, I had come to this conclusion that I had not really ever thought about before. And I am almost 40 years old. I have been through many jobs. I have, I guess you could say that something like a neurodiverse background or person or whatever you want to say. Like, I don't usually rely on those things as a way of explaining why I don't fit. Because I fit for me, this is me, I like me. Rather, I will only discuss those things within the context of things like my rights are being violated simply because another person has decided that I don't fit their structure. At the end of the day, we make those definitions for ourselves. And I had this revelation about success. And that revelation was solely based on the fact that one of my coworkers had said something very specific to me. Ultimately, he came to me with a question. I'm not going to say I have an encyclopedic brain, and I definitely don't have a photographic memory. But I'm one of those people who remembers things in a very annoyingly specific way. So when I learn about things like new technology, I tend to remember the nuanced pieces. And people, once they start kind of learning about how I problem solve and how I discuss these things, they start coming to me with questions. So he started to come to me with questions. And at one point I said that, I was really glad that he felt comfortable bringing questions to me and that we could have the discussion. And that I had actually failed to answer his question. But we were able to have the conversation. And his response is what actually redefined part of my thought process. Because his response was that I was the person he was not afraid to look stupid in front of. I thought about that for quite some time. Just the idea that people are afraid to ask questions because they're afraid that other people will evaluate them to be incapable or stupid or unsuccessful. And I really appreciated the fact that of all the people that he could choose to ask his questions of, he felt comfortable coming to me with it. And when I had to think about, like, would I rather have a life full of people who evaluated me on that level to say, I feel safe talking to you about these things? I know that you're not going to equate my inability to answer the question for myself as me being stupid. You're just going to talk to me about the answer. Is that a better sign of success than, say, moving to C-level of an established company? At least for me as a person, and for like what I want to see come from my life, I would hands down rather be the person that people trusted. I don't ever want to be part of that structure where people are afraid to talk in front of me because they think that talking in front of me could jeopardize their livelihood, which is essentially what happened. So I spoke honestly. I didn't censor the person that they hired. In, all ways, shape, or form, I move forward with this sense of I'm going to be myself. I'm not going to worry about whether or not another person thinks it's valuable for me to be myself, because the only person who gets to live my life is me. The only person who has to evaluate whether or not the time that I have here on this earth is being used effectively and successfully is me. So why would I let definitions that I truly do not identify with define whether or not I'm successful? It doesn't make sense. Now, don't get me wrong, that didn't mean that I experienced the sense of guilt and grief and frustration and sadness of losing this job, because like I seriously thought that the job was the right one for me. Like I thought I was going to be able to evolve as a professional and as a person through the position. So when it started to fall apart, I scrambled. I was trying to figure out, and I would routinely say things like, I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. You're telling me to do this. I'm trying to do that. You still tell me I'm not doing it right. But when I ask you to give me an example, you can't give me an example. All you can say is, I know what you are isn't what we want right now. And so I started to routinely walk away from my days just feeling like I was worthless, and that no matter how much effort I put into being that person, I just never was going to get there. And then it just kind of went, I don't care. I don't care that I'm not that person. So over the last couple of weeks, as I've kind of incorporated the joblessness back into my life, and I say back into my life because I spent, the better part of 2 years being a gig worker, scraping by, kind of negotiating some things to try and make sure that I didn't completely destroy my life while doing that. Um, I went through that process, but like I ultimately was like, the decision comes down to, do you want to be in the social structure as it stands traditionally, like two kids, a house, 3.5 cars, a dog, all of that kind of stuff? Or do I want to be myself? Like, I know I'm rambling, and I'm rambling to the void, but I guess the point that I'm talking about right now is we get to define that. We get to define what success truly is for us. I can decide that all I'm really going to focus on from like a working with people or money or whatever perspective is this sense of, I just need to make my bills. So as long as my bills get paid, like I don't really care how I go about paying them. And once I kind of gave myself the permission to not be aggressively trying to just jump straight back into corporate world 101, where I just have to start again, be like the third or fourth time in my life that I've restarted my career thinking like the last job that I took was going to be the one, and then finding out because of life or because of how uncomfortable people are with your originality, that again I have to start all over because that's life and people were uncomfortable with my originality or whatever. I don't know really how else to like summarize it. Like I feel like I'm even being self-serving by saying that that was the focal issue, that people couldn't accept my originality. I do think that there are a lot of people who see it as a threat, but I don't know. Once I gave myself permission to not be part of that game, I just felt so much better about it. I still have these waves of, sadness and confusion. And there's still a part of me that wants to go back and just make everyone tell me what exactly did I do wrong. Not necessarily because I want to go and fix those things, but because I want to understand what is it specifically about me that isn't gelling, that requires the extra work and the care and the refocus or whatever. And I guess I just, like, I can't wait until I can fully, like, let go of that compulsion to fix. Because I don't want to fix. I just want to be me. I really need another drink, like as in like a soda or whatever, but I don't know. I do think I'm gonna go get, like, I bought myself a steak for dinner because I worked hard today and I got some funky news. So I really want to look at that highlight. Oh, girl. I am not a makeup person, but I've been playing with makeup a lot lately. And I've fallen into the highlight. Um, I've fallen into that, oh, I don't know, highlight hole, K hole. Anyway, be right back. I am so sorry. That was super loud. I should have muted my microphone. I wish I could change like the hashtags and stuff that are on the stream in the middle of the stream. It's a learning experience. Um, I plan to do this on a very regular basis. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out the viewer thing, but ultimately what we're looking at is trying to get a pretty consistent basis going on so that people feel like they can come and enjoy the time with me and ask their questions and do all of that good stuff. So apparently I've got a partner in my puzzle now, which is cool. I really don't mind doing puzzles with people. Like, and I know that's kind of like random to say on a channel where I say like you can come do puzzles with me. What I mean is like doing it anonymous random people. Um, but if you recall from before, the people that I was doing the puzzle with were being weird or immature. Not really weird, just being very predictable and just not worth the time, I guess. People can feel free to spend their time doing whatever they feel like. But I'm just not that interested in it. I am. Let's see here. I got a couple of anonymous people in here now. I wish that I could just like. I want to change the name of the actual puzzle that we're doing so that it would be reflecting the Facebook, or not the Facebook, but the live stream status. But I feel like it's just a constant like learning experience. And at least with this, like I feel like I can learn something new as opposed to just like constantly trying to figure out um oh, this is gonna be so weird because like I'll be completely like distracted. I'm trying to keep talking, but I'm also trying to do the puzzle and trying to think of what to talk about. As potentially, somebody might walk in at any point and want to listen, and yeah, that's like the most interesting response, right? I don't know. I'll have to figure out some more stuff. Right now, I am I'm doing this and I'm making dinner and just thinking, I guess. Thinking about all the things that I've done wrong in my life that led me to this possibility. And then at the same time thinking, why did it have to be things that I did wrong to get me to this point? Could just be the evolution of my life. I could have. I should see if. Aw, yeah. Let's see here. be interesting to see how things change, evolve, or whatever over time. I just like looked over and saw, saw like I had like, oh, this is so awful. I feel like people just like Googled, like I put into the chat that I'm streaming the puzzle. People are like, why? And so then like they jump over and then people start peeking and here we are. How do you complete puzzles? Wow. So, um, how do you complete puzzles? You put the puzzles together. Let's see. I'm trying to kick this person because I'm trying to figure out how this part works. Because if it doesn't actually do anything, like, that sucks. Hello. What's up, song? That's actually somebody jumped into my channel. Thank you very much. I was saying hi to them. I am actually like trying. Steak? Yep. It's New York strip steak. Trying to slow cook it a little bit. I uh I put in this puzzle because there's like a accompanying little chat window, right? I put in there, hey, just I was like, congratulations, everybody, you're live on YouTube right now. And I was like, please be respectful. And this person said, I will not. So I immediately muted them. It's like, bah, bah. Well, so far in doing these puzzles on this particular platform, I have watched people change their usernames to a variety of different inappropriate words.
So, considering the fact that I'm trying to, stay fairly family friendly, like I don't feel like having a bunch of um, euphemisms for genitalia sitting on the screen. Huh? I just said YouTube. Because the other day when I was on Twitch, I was trying to like decide how to do that, and because I already have it set up under Tesla Coil, but I'm not streaming this directly under that moniker. So like if I were to stream it on Twitch, um like it would be like, okay, so AMLA on, Tesla Coil doing AMLA, which is fine, and that's where I started, but then it's hard to categorize and it's hard to um tag and stuff. So I kind of decided that maybe I would just not do that. At least not right now. Like I'll probably figure it out eventually, but for the time being, it just didn't seem to make the most sense. Um, but yeah, YouTube was like super easy to kind of construct it, and like their interface for managing like the actual YouTube chat and stuff is a lot easier to just keep on the screen than like the Twitch stuff that I worked with before. So I figure, I could do some things on Twitch and some things on YouTube. Like my goal was essentially to launch on Facebook, um, to get the tech issues figured out, then get YouTube going because that seems to be where a lot of the actual like conversational traffic seems to be, and then eventually try to cross platform, but don't want to max out all of my effort and get myself feeling all uh, discouraged. What are you making? Making brownies? Yes? It just looked like he just looked at me like, fuck off. I can't see what, you know, you know me. I could have randomly bought like a German chocolate cake mix and have no idea that I did. I'm echoing now. Let's see. Is it better now? For brownies, you should use the smaller one. I am assuming song that that smiley face means that I fixed the general issue. When I checked audio earlier, it just sounded like I was uh, potentially getting a little bit of distortion from our ceilings. So my apologies. But that's gonna suck because I've been sitting here talking about stuff. Where the scissors at? Oh, I mean, they should be somewhere over there. So, yeah. In case any of you who are in the chat are wondering, the person I'm talking to is my partner, and he decided to make brownies. So that's what we are talking about. Huh, those pieces were right next to each other, and they were just waiting to be touched. What's your favorite onion? Is that some kind of dessert? I really like green onions too. I like that they're very cheap, and I like that they can go on a lot of different things. Funyuns. Ah, there's like if you like Funyuns, there's this one like snack thing. It's like Vidalia onion petals, but they're kind of like it's kind of like a an answer to the bloomin' onion in Funyun form. I like that video of turtles. I like that video where that reference comes from anyway. You drop like seriously, I will put green onions in just about anything. Like I put it in like salads and like ramen, um, on potatoes, that kind of stuff. Yeah, so I mean, I guess now we have a couple of people in the chat, which is really great. Thank you for showing up and interacting and chatting. Um, so I spent a good chunk of time earlier talking to the Void about what we're doing here, but I will eventually be producing like an actual explanation video. But the goal here, and if you guys want to like and subscribe, the idea that we're going to be moving forward with is that this is going to be a regular occurrence where I will be live here on YouTube or a different platform to do the Ask Mama Lynn anything. Um, the thought process is we're kind of right now I don't have it on Twitch. I do have a Twitch channel where I was doing um, like basically the focus of my Twitch channel was listen to some good music and watch me be terrible at games. I almost exclusively stream on Twitch during Extra Life, but um, probably will eventually try to cross platform. But, ultimately, what we're re enlivening is a concept that happened. Really, it was, it's like 15 years now. It's terrible to think about because I feel so old when I say that. But essentially, over the last 15, 16 years, or towards the latter half of my college years, I had a friend of mine um, who I'm still friends with to this day. She dubbed me Mama Lynn because I was the person that, like, everybody in the dorm would come and talk to about their problems. They'd ask me relationship advice. They'd ask me about their homework. They would, if their homework assignment was like a book report, they would say, like, what do you think about this passage? And I would give them that. Um, Essentially, you could ask me anything, and I don't really have a lot of um, boundaries. So I'm very honest and definitely do a lot of TMI and stuff. But like our goal is essentially going to be that every stream will have some kind of theme. Um, potentially being like, Mondays be relationship questions, Tuesdays being dietary questions, or whatever it is. So our ultimate focus just being, communal conversation that focuses around this concept where ultimately what used to happen is I had a jigsaw puzzle going on in the lobby of my dorm floor, and anybody who wanted to come and take a break from life or talk could come and sit with me and do the jigsaw puzzle. And while we did the jigsaw puzzle, we'd talk about whatever you needed to talk about. Or we'd listen to the kick ass music that was coming from my room. But the problem with doing the streaming stuff is that you can't exactly put music in the background. So we're kind of stuck with the conversation. Um, the theme of today is kind of like as I titled the video, it's the Friday free for all. Um, Essentially, today is the first successful stream because when I tried to launch on Wednesday, I had technical problems that got me so frustrated I just stopped. Um, And so today it's like literally I've just been kind of talking because nobody has been around, but you could literally ask me anything and we can talk about it. It is a free for all. I just ask that people be accepting and respectful. I'm not looking to be tolerating any hate speech or anything like that. So I definitely don't want to have that kind of stuff going on. Yeah, I mean, I'm told that I give good hugs and everything. Like I'm the person that, you know, prior to COVID, of course, like I mean, even since going into COVID, I've thought about um, creating a sign like where it says free hugs and high fives, and people could come and get a hug from me if they needed to. Especially because right now everything sucks. Today, Uh, my day today was okay. Things are weird right now in the world. So I spend a lot of time listening to um, like political commentary and stuff like that. So I've been kind of really paying attention to like the election results here in the United States. And then I eventually went and did a couple of gig work things and went to physical therapy. So super fun times, right? I don't eat hot dogs. So I personally did not have a grilled hot dog. Like that would be very gross to me right now. Like I know you like hot dogs, doesn't mean I'm going to eat them. Well, I already voted because, voting was on Tuesday. I feel like most people would make an assumption as to who I would have voted for on Tuesday based on my appearance. And the assumption that they would make is correct. So, who do you think I voted for? And like I said, it is, you can ask me anything, so I will answer. I'm just curious as to see what you would assume my choice was. Kanye was not on the ballot where I live. So he was on the ballot in the state next to me, but he was not on ours. So no, I did not vote for Kanye. I did not write in Kanye, and he was not an option. I do think it's funny that, like, what was it, like North Carolina or something, Tennessee, like some state on the East Coast, had like 11,000 votes or something for him. And while it was like insignificant, he completely backed off from the presidential election almost immediately. I found it fascinating that of all the options that we have for competent politicians or, theoretical competent politicians, there were still people who were willing to vote for Kanye. Oh my gosh, I don't know what I would do if the birthday party came back. I feel like if Kanye ran in 2024, we would just ultimately see what happened after somebody convinced him to take a, psychiatric medication or something, and then suddenly he would be, really straight-faced and boring. Are you messing with my steaks? Are you turning it down? I guess I gotta go check my steaks. I'll be right back, guys. Well, it's supposed to. Yeah, it's not sticky at all. Did exactly what I wanted it to do. Witches get some char. Oh my gosh, I keep forgetting to mute my microphone, so I am so sorry. I'm still here. So here's the thing. I have spent enough time on the internet because I am a very old person, considering, to know better than to stand up on stream.
so I won't. I feel like Harambe caught kind of a bad rap. I wish this ban would work. For real. So, man, okay, so I'm about to say Arusha, but I'm not sure if that's correct. I hope it is. But I keep clicking ban and it's not working, unfortunately. So, as you can see, somebody has already. Like, eventually, my goal is that I'll be able to use platforms like this in order to just host my puzzle privately and then issue invites to people who want to be in the puzzle. Right now, it is just, whoever publicly wants to participate, and it is a little frustrating for me because I have very limited patience for stupidity. Like, it's weird because I like stupid humor. I like intentional stupidity. I don't like people who clutter up the world with things that don't compel us to be humored. They don't compel us to learn. They don't compel us to do anything other than be annoyed. I don't find that funny. So, from the perspective of my job, it's funny that you're asking because I had just spent like an hour talking about what like, uh, a revelation that I had about the professional world. But ultimately, right now, I am working pretty specifically as a gig worker, as in, I grocery shop for people for a living. It's unfortunate. I lost my full time job about 3 weeks ago. Actually, the day before my birthday, kind of 3 weeks ago. So I had kind of some time where I was pretty bummed out about it. But then I decided to do something different with my time and try to embrace something that I actually thought was good about me or good about the things that I can bring to this world. So I'm hoping
that over time this will become something that, if not my job, at least be something that other people could see worth in, so that I'm contributing to a better perspective and a better community, if that makes sense. Yeah, it is, but I think if we were in a position where you had known me for longer, you would understand just exactly how difficult it was. But the job that I lost was one that I really believed that I had the potential of developing until I was old enough to retire. So the fact that it dissolved was pretty devastating for me. Well, one of the best ways to make sure that it keeps going and that, eventually, like, there's enough traffic where maybe people will tip me $1 or $2, like, is just to share it and to support it. I appreciate you guys even showing up tonight. This is literally the first live stream that I've held here on YouTube ever. So, hopefully, I guess we'll see, right? At the very minimum, I just figure it's going to be a way for people to not feel completely lonely, and eventually, what I'm hoping is that we can at least build a relationship with each other so that the conversation feels much more personal. Um, but yeah, there's certainly no way that I'm going to get away with robbing banks, though. I so like I have thought about it. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I have thought about all the different ways that we could essentially say, I don't care about social structure. I'm just gonna do what I need to do, right? So my like, for example, my first job out of college back in 2005, I guess 2006 technically. I was doing the accounting for a grocery store. And every Friday, I literally would hold $100,000 worth of cash in my hands. And I regularly thought about walking out the door with it. But I didn't. So I just spent the next, 10 plus years after that wondering why I never walked out of the store with $100,000. ATMs, no, you never steal the ATM. You don't steal an ATM because you can't open them. Like, you have to have the key for the ATM in order for you to open it. Like, you can't just take a sledgehammer to it. Like, they're intentionally built that way. It's just the same as, like, if you robbed, like, if you were gonna actually rob a a place like a grocery store, like, you could rob the cashiers, but most of the money's not in the cashiers, right? They're in the bank or in the safe. But the safe, at least the safe that I was working with when I was doing the accounting, for example, had a time release mechanism. And you had to listen to it for a very tiny little click. And you had like 2 seconds after that click happened in order to open the safe where all of the bonus money was. So I think that you're not connecting with like the whole thought process behind the walking out with the 100K, because I literally said making the decision as to whether or not we're going to abide by like the social structure. So if you make the decision that you don't care, like, you literally don't care about the consequences, the illegality of something doesn't matter.
Like, if what you're really focused on is success defined by yourself, like as who you are, like you just get to decide what is important and what matters, making the decision to take money from the bank is irrelevant to the law. I mean, obviously, you could be held accountable for it, but it is a decision whether or not you intentionally adhere to that law. No, no, because like I said, that was like 10 years ago, and I don't have the means to rob the bank. I don't even know what like the Joker mentality really is because I didn't see I don't I guess I really didn't see any of like the films or anything. So like I know from a character perspective, but I didn't like watch a movie and decide that that made sense. I think that like this is the natural evolution of my thought process. So like there's like I don't know if you notice like in the puzzle itself there's people like now actively either trolling me or just trying to be confusing. I don't know if any of you are in the puzzle, but like for real. I absolutely fear death. It is one of the most crippling anxiety filled fears that I have. It's for a very specific reason though, and it's for the fact that like we have absolutely no idea what happens. Death is the one experience that I will have in my life that I will not be able to look back on and reflect. Like, I have no guarantee that I can reflect on it, right? So I can't experience it and go, wow, that was interesting, or wow, that was painful. I can just come to a place where I accept that it will happen. And there are definitely days where I'll be like trying to go to bed and I can't sleep because of the notion that at any time that could happen. The the I think most people are like that. I think that like the way that anxiety usually manifests for people is that, anxiety is comprised mostly of like 85% anticipation, right? So when we're sitting here feeling anxious or confused or whatever, and we're fearful of what might happen, we're fearful because of the anticipation. We're not fearful necessarily of the outcome. So, one of the best ways to clarify it is to make a decision and to just go forward with it. And one of the things that I do in my free time, I guess you could call it, is I do peer counseling, like one on one mental health peer counseling. And it's something that I talk to people quite a bit about. The idea that anxiety can be heavily clarified by just making a choice. And the notion that people have about those choices is that they can't change their mind. Like they have to be sure. Like when they're going to say, I want this job instead of this job, they have to know that that job is what they're going to want to do for the rest of their lives. And I had that feeling for a very, very long time. And then it occurred to me that there are only two things in this world that are actually permanent and cannot be changed. And those two things are the creation of life and the instance of death. Everything else in between can be changed. Now, it's kind of analogous, because I'm not just talking about like our human life death. I'm talking like, if you have to face a limb amputation, that is still a death, right? You can't reverse limb amputation. You can't, like, I've had a couple of organs removed from inside my body. I can't get those back. They died. I can't make choices that would be dependent on the pieces of me that have already died. I can, however, accept the fact that they have died and those choices are no longer there. And any choice that I move forward with, if I'm sitting here thinking, well, I don't know if I should take this job or this job, the best permission I can give myself is the permission to decide later that I don't like the job. That it's okay for me to take job A and then decide it sucks and then go back to job B. Now, it might be difficult to reconnect with the pathway to job B, but there's always a point in which you can change your mind. So, as long as you don't allow yourself that fallacy of permanency of some of these choices that we're taught to consider as permanent, like, you'll be in a better place. From the perspective of, like, I'm assuming, Song, that you're asking me if I'm a psychotherapist. And if I was a psychotherapist, I probably wouldn't be delivering groceries for a living right now. I do have a minor degree in abnormal psychology, but I never pursued it to a level in which I would be able to practice as an actual healthcare provider, so that's why I do peer counseling. Absolutely not. Believe me, I, you know, this might be a good time to share something that was shared with me recently. Something that made a lot of sense after it was shared with me, something that kind of brought me more peace or whatever you want to say. But as I was, so one second, Umang, and I'll finish. Shoot, now I forgot. Oh yeah, okay, so I'm doing the grocery shopping for people. Like I grocery shop through like platforms and stuff. And one day I had an order that I did for a 96-year-old man. And during the course of my getting his groceries for him, he, was kind of confused and asked a lot of questions. And I took the time to kind of, help walk him through the process, make sure he got the groceries he needed and stuff, because, I think it's really important for us to take care of each other. And he ultimately had told me that he thought I was like this amazing person. And that part I kind of question, because I feel like we can all have these gut feelings, but I think it's a natural question when we're given compliments like that to say, like, I'm not sure you actually know who I am, because I am privy to my internal thoughts and the doubts and the shitty things that I think about other people. But ultimately, the only thing you can do with a compliment is either decide to accept it or not, and I'm working on accepting. But uh, when I lost my job, I reached out to him, and because he and I had kind of created a connection, and I reached out to him and I said, life is just really confusing for me right now. COVID has caught up with me. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. But losing my job really threw me for a loop. And he said that of all things, um, that I knew better about the troubles of this world as it stands right now than he did. Because where he is in his life and how he has to live his life, he's not having to contend with any of these evolutions that we have socially. So he couldn't really give me a whole lot of advice as to how to navigate that because it's just not his world. But he did say that he might be as old as he is, but all it means when he compares himself to me is that he has more battle scars and that he hadn't learned anything special from any of them. So I shouldn't be sitting here thinking that, somehow wisdom will come with time because he's sitting there at 96 years old still feeling like he learned absolutely nothing from all of the trouble and hard times he's lived through. He's also been an extremely successful person and he's been able to, use his success to support, uh, you know, charitable organizations and things that he really appreciates. And so you sit there and think, you can hold these two things at the same time. You can think that you are, as a human, that you're failing while also being completely, somebody else's safe haven, so to speak. So the question was, what was my major? Um, my major in college, which, like I said, was a long time ago, but my major was ethnic, cultural, and gender literature. So I technically have an English degree. I really like it when people start like trashing on English degrees too, especially because at one point in my career, I had a job where my title at a major Fortune 500 company was creative writer. Like, people like to give you a hard time because you pursued something like that, but they underestimate the value that companies put on the artistic mindset. Well, I'd like to say that, I guess I wouldn't like to say that you're not ever going to get, like, you aren't going to consistently get your mind messed with a little bit. Um, if I'm completely real about it, from like an actual like interactions perspective, I don't have a whole lot of close friends. And I know that the reason for that is because I don't really have a filter for the things that make people uncomfortable at night. Like, I just talk about them. So, the job where I was creative writer, I was working actually in a user experience design shop, and it was really fantastic. I really, really enjoyed it. I was really good at it, and it's something that I still seek to pursue to this day. Um, the company I was working for was locally owned, but had grown quite significantly, and the owner had decided to retire. So he sold the company, and the company that bought the company I was working for decided they didn't care at all about any of the things that we were doing, and they completely changed the company, and they laid about at least a third of the staff off within 6 months. Oh, the user experience design. Are you focusing on like web based because my user experience design was much more conceptual and was about conversational AI. I'm old enough that when I got into that position, it was just before it became a school thing, like something like the fact that people can go to school and get a degree in UX is relatively new. And it wasn't really something that you could go to school for um, when I was coming up. So I didn't even know it existed. But when I essentially fell into the position that I was in, and I found it to be an extremely good combination of the skills that are required to become like a storyteller, to be artistic in that way, but then also the analysis that comes from a psychology background. So it was really extremely fascinating for me. Yeah, user experience research is a fascinating field in my opinion. Um, I like the way that I from like a my independent business, like when I tell people that the different areas in which I can provide consulting services. When I talk about UX, I talk about the analysis of customer affect and not necessarily user experience itself, because I feel like when you go out into the job market and you say that you work or you specialize in UX, what ends up happening is that companies are still focusing on UX as being synonymous with UI, and they don't want to pay for two resources. So if you don't have code in your bucket, like if you don't know how to write any script, you're kind of screwed. And I think that sucks because I think that the analysis of behavior is a full-time job, and so is the writing of cohesive and effective code. If you ask a person to analyze human behavior at the same time that they're trying to be analytical about characters on the board and the efficacy of code, you're never going to get the best quality product that you could have. I'm like, I just said all that, but then, like, there are people who are probably smarter than me who would totally, totally disagree with me. I do believe that if you're going to work in UX, especially if you're going to work in like an actual shop, it's good to like know at least how to read code so that when you're sitting down in those meetings and talking about whether or not your research has been conceptualized effectively and that the design reflects your research and that the design is also reflected in the code, being able to follow the conversation is super important. Well, I do understand that. Like, I understand that, UX research is still focused on, is more, I feel like UX research is what they're now calling the human analysis aspect of data analytics. But I can say from like even recent offerings that I've had for, exploring jobs, like I just had one come through on LinkedIn the other day where they asked me if I was interested in taking on a UX researcher position. The UX researcher position that I was offered as, a potential job required 5 years of experience in a shop, including at least 1 year of being a project lead, and then also required that you knew Sketch in if not other software programs, as well as being able to read at least one coding language. So even the title of UX researcher gets lumped into the same category that I'm talking about, where companies don't differentiate between like the hard, it's like computer engineering versus uh, computer it's computer engineering and computer developer. I forget. I can't remember the dichotomy off the top of my head right now. But essentially, where one is focusing on the hardware and one is focusing on the software, like that same kind of concept happens in user research or user experience, but companies are still struggling with the concept that they would have to invest in two different people to get those qualities. Yep. And it's all a money saving aspect. And, people like me, like I'll sit here and say, at the end of the day, your long term money saving ability and money making ability vastly improves if you allow people to focus on what they specialized in. So even though the upfront cost of like having the resource on hand is more expensive, you end up making more money because you make more intelligent choices overall. Well, like I said, this job offer came through like 2 days ago. The only thing that I've seen change since I first stepped into the user experience realm, which was almost 6 years ago now, um, is the addition of the UX researcher position. Reading code isn't necessarily the most difficult thing. I think that it's it falls into the the way I used to kind of conceptualize it was the same as building a foreign language, such as like when you're trying to learn, Spanish. So a lot of people will get to a point where they can be proficient, where they can hold a basic conversation, but that doesn't mean that they could teach an entire class in it. So here's the thing, Song. I'm not qualified for the job. I'm not applying for the job because I'm not qualified for it. I don't meet the criteria that they put out there that was the definition of what they were looking for their UX researcher position. Can't tick all the boxes. And now that I'm the age that I am, I'm competing with people like our friend here who is going to school for it. I don't have the equivalency of a 4 or 5 year degree. Are you okay? I just like turned and looked over there, and he's eating chunks of brownie off of a spatula. Because somebody cut his brownies before they were supposed to be cut. No, I've kind of been down that road, and the people who contacted me about the job, um, I'm familiar with the resourcing firm. So at the end of the day, like I just find it really frustrating. Is my husband single? If he was my husband, wouldn't that by definition mean that he's not single?
I do not have kids. I have a cat. I think I'd probably go crazy, or my kids would go crazy if I was a mom. I'm the world's mom. I'm Mama Lynn. Duh. It's like, you know, my cat. I call her the grandma cat because when we adopted her, she was already elderly, but she's certainly a brat. So she is very similar to having a kid, but from the perspective of like, can you be my kid? I mean, from the perspective of being part of the conversation and being welcome to come back when you see me live, yeah, absolutely. Everybody in the chat could be my kids. I try not to like actually conceptualize other adults as children though, because at the end of the day, the Mama Lynn thing isn't so much about making sure everybody knows that they're children, but rather that everybody knows that there's somebody here who will give a shit. I don't. Were you being weird? Wasn't really something that I was too concerned about. I mean, you're talking to somebody who has half a head of hair. Like, the general population either thinks that I look fascinating or that I am a total weirdo. And I'll tell you, the other day, um, I when I was doing grocery shopping, I was wearing these headphones in public and dancing while I was grocery shopping. So pretty sure I'm a little like from like a social perspective, like a societal norm perspective, I am pretty weird. But that's one of the things I was kind of talking to the ether about before you all showed up. That we get to define what that means. We get to define what's normal because normal is relative to who we are and what we're trying to accomplish with our lives. Just because it doesn't meet like this criteria or like this outline that, somebody has given us doesn't mean that it is abnormal, weird, or incorrect. Nope. I got hairs, I just got only half my hairs. I feel like, to prove it, like cuz I felt like it. I used to only have like the hair on the top of my head. Like I had from this part shaved all the way around, and my partner requested that I look a little bit more feminine. So I grew out the rest of my hair. I'm trying to like I call myself like indie punk. Like, I guess you could call it that. I used to be 100% bald. I shaved my head for a short period of time. Um, but my hair grows really fast, and that makes it very difficult to maintain a bald head. I just did one of the things that people used to get mad at me about in college all the time is like they're trying to fit a piece of the puzzle into a specific place, and I pick up a piece of puzzle and I put it in that space. So, from the perspective of video games, I do, but I don't. Like I was saying earlier, um, I like when I am on Twitch, like I'm typically streaming and openly admitting that I suck at whatever game that I'm playing. The only game that I intentionally played regularly and with any kind of purpose, like to try and be somewhat decent, was the game Forager. And I still really like that game, but I kind of like I burnt myself out on it, to be honest. So I stopped playing. But I actually had like I think I got up to like 15 days in a row that I played and streamed every hour. I guess you could call it that. Like I just I one of the reasons why like the focus here is like on a puzzle is because the puzzle enables like a psychological distraction. Like it's not like you have to stare a person in the face and have a confrontational conversation while you're messing around with a puzzle. Most of the games and things that I mess around with, like I have, maybe one day like I'll do like a scan of all of the apps that I have on my phone because I do a lot of app testing and I try a lot of different things. A lot of them are in puzzles. Um, I am absolutely horrendous at things like first person shooters, but I can get behind a pretty good adventure game. But I tend to enjoy the relaxing, casual, even if I'm on my computer, I'll be like in a resource management type game and not trying to kill people and not trying to manage a war or anything like that. Like, I'm not even trying to fight other people. I'm just trying to enjoy my time outside of the reality that I already live in. I think we're already shitty enough to each other. Why would, like, you may have noticed, like, in this chat, in this puzzle game that I got going on here, like, there are people being dumb. And I don't see the value in it. Like, it's not funny. It's just annoying. And so at the end of the day, like I don't put myself into positions where other people could just like make me feel shitty or make me angry. Like why would I play a game where I will just walk away from it feeling angry? Like that doesn't make any sense to me. No, I am not talking about you. I could use you as like a moral lesson. One of these days, like if I actually do this on such a regular basis as has already been requested, they're gonna end up hearing you. Thank you for hanging out. I hope you will like and share the Mama Lynn experience, and maybe we can continue some thematic interactions later. Have a good night. So actually, um, so he's not like we're not married, but we more or less might as well be. Um, and I he would call himself a gamer. Yes, he actually launched a streamer channel of his own at the beginning of the year. Um, he's kind of on hiatus right now, but I know he's intending to kind of get back into it. So it's one of the reasons why I'm on at this time of day is because his stream focuses more so that he can interact with his gaming buddies in the UK. I'm rather trying to focus on like the time where people might need to actually get some thoughts out on the table. So I figured, you know, later in the evening is probably a better time for something like what I'm doing. Well, we were just joking around about the fact that he shouts at Modern Warfare. That's why he thought I was talking about him, is because, like, he literally will get mad at Modern Warfare. I think one of the most common things that I will hear him say is, it's like my bullets don't count. What's with all the hit markers? So, I don't know. He plays until he gets too angry and then he stops. I kind of don't like it a lot. But we have decisions and choices that we make for ourselves. Just like I was saying, we decide what makes sense for us. For me, I don't want to spend my gaming time in that mindset, but he doesn't mind it so much. I still like I have a specific song stuck in my head and it's been stuck in my head for like a day and a half and it's still stuck in my head. I have never played Minecraft. People will ask me about it sometimes. They'll ask if I play that. They'll ask me if I've played Roblox before, which I think is really funny because I am like way older than the general demographic for Roblox. See, I think for me, like, I just sometimes I get really frustrated. I know this is not going to make a lot of sense, but I like predictable puzzles. Like, I like figuring out strategy puzzles and stuff like that, but I don't necessarily want to have to figure out how do I build this so that I can get this, so that I can get this, so that I can get this. Like, I'll play something like WoW and stick to like the quests and stuff that are very specific, like go and kill 15 of these and collect 20 of these and stuff like that. But once you start getting into like the realm of um, having to team up and really strategize like how you're going to get through, or people who are on the PvP servers, like I just hate it. So like I think from the perspective of what I know about Minecraft, I think I would get bored with it really really easily because it just doesn't fit the frame. See, and I grew up with the original Tetris. So like I like when I was a kid, like I played Frogger on the original Atari. So like I would 100% believe that like the games that we played as kids ultimately inform what we find comforting and entertaining as adults. And the song, by the way, is a song called Radical, and it is by AWOL Nation featuring Group Love. And I like it just dropped the other day, and I loved it immediately and put it on like three of my Spotify playlists, which, if we ever do this on Twitch, like one of my Twitch links is the streaming beaming Spotify list by Tesla Coil, which is me. Um, and on that, like I tried to provide, access at least for people to hear a few of the songs that I've decided to highlight as being worth listening to, I guess. I don't know though. Like I'm getting to a point where it's about time for me to like crack into one of my steaks and it might be time for me to wrap this up soon. Because while you all might not have been hanging out with me for too long, I am at 2.5 hours on this stream. And yeah, I kind of want to eat my steak. And I don't think people want to watch me eat. We're gonna have to have like a nickname or whatever for people who started uh, hanging out with me right at the beginning, like being the OG kids or something. Kind of surprised that y'all didn't like say, "Oh no, please don't leave," but it's okay. Like I was saying earlier, though, please do like and at least you know tap in, subscribe, or whatever it is that you can do with the stream right now. We are looking at doing, essentially having conversational time every day. So, eventually, like, there is a Facebook page. On the Facebook page, I'm hoping to, uh, publish publish times that will be streaming and the topics that we'll be focusing on. But at minimum, I think that this platform has been really easy to work with, and as I'm kind of figuring out whether or not it's worth continuing to do, and whether people have any interest in continuing the conversation, um, we'll keep coming back here to YouTube. So at very least, you should be able to see when I go live here on YouTube. But I very much appreciate y'all hanging out with me tonight. Because of how I am, I could definitely see me essentially streaming anytime I'm bored. So, yeah. Anyway, like I said, like, subscribe. Thank you for dealing with my awkwardness, and thank you